Mario Kart is one of the most popular video game franchises we've ever seen. Over the past 30 plus years, we have had lots of games release, and all of them have essentially the same tried and true Mario Kart formula, but also have their own unique aspects that set them apart from the rest. And even though at this point there are many unique and special Mario Karts, the one that I admire the most for its creativity is Mario Kart Double Dash. Sure, at this point it's pretty old, but I think it still has a case for being the most fun game in the entire series. So in this video, we are going to dive into this game and talk about what made it so great. Welcome to a Mario Kart Double Dash retrospective. Released for the GameCube in November of 2003, Mario Kart Double Dash was the fourth installment in the Mario Kart series. Even though the franchise was fairly popular at this point, the first three games were all pretty basic and lacked creativity in my opinion. Super Mario Kart was the first one and was on the Super Nintendo, so it had reasons for not aging well, but it's still not great. Mario Kart 64 made some much needed improvements visually, but the controls and physics were still not good. And Super Circuit is essentially a portable version of the original, which was great at the time, but the franchise still lacked something. They still haven't had that version of Mario Kart that would actually stand the test of time and be praised 20 years later, until Double Dash. This game truly ascended Mario Kart to another level, just by being creative and trying some outside of the box ideas. The biggest being what's advertised on the box and is in the name, 2 characters in one kart. This is basically just out of nowhere because there was nothing remotely close to this in the previous 3 games. It's pretty simple. When you are selecting a character to race with, you have to select 2 instead of 1. One person drives and the other is on the back handling the items. Of course you can switch who's in what position at any point in the race. It doesn't matter who is driving and who's not, the kart will handle the same way. It really has more to do with the items. Items, of course, are a staple in Mario Kart. They turn it from being a standard racing game into an all-out chaos in just seconds. You want to use your items correctly to have an advantage in Mario Kart, obviously, and switching who's driving in Double Dash is what allows you to maximize your item usage. The only one who can grab and use items is the person on the back. The driver can hold an item, but can't use it unless they switch. So if you hit an item box and the person on the back is holding an item, then you won't get that item box. But if you switch to where the person holding the item is driving and the person without an item is on the back, then you can hold 2 items at once, greatly increasing the number of items you will get in a single race, thus increasing your chances of winning. On the flip side, however, you cannot hold an item behind you like in most other games, which makes it a lot harder to block red shells, but it's not a huge deal. It's not like it's impossible to throw them behind you and hit it. Overall, this 2 character mechanic is really neat, and also works if you want to play with another person in real life. One person can control each character. Yes, this means one person is just sitting there the entire race just using items, which is kind of boring, but hey, you at least have the option. But the items themselves is one of the best parts of this game. Of course, items have always been a part of Mario Kart, and it's one of the things that makes these games so chaotic and fun, but Double Dash took items to another level. Of course, you have the standard items like bananas, green shells, red shells, spiny shells, mushrooms, fake item box, stars, and lightning. But in addition to all of those, there are now character-specific special items. These are 10 somewhat brand new items that only certain characters in the game can get from item boxes. And they're not specific to one character, but 2 characters that are normally paired with each other. Mario and Luigi have fireballs that spread out quite far and can hit multiple targets if used right. Peach and Daisy have these hearts that rotate around them and not only stop items from hitting them, but will also steal that item and put it in their hands. This one is actually really underrated. Yoshi and Birdo have eggs that essentially work like red shells, except after the target has been hit, 3 items will drop on the ground for you to pick up, and there will even be stars sometimes. Baby Mario and Baby Luigi have the Chain Chomp. This is a lot of people's favorite, and for good reason. This spawns a Chain Chomp that pulls you forward, you go a little faster, and the chomp will hit anything in its path. However, it is a little hard to control, and on tracks like Rainbow Road and Wario Coliseum, you could be more prone to falling off. But overall, a really fun item. Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong have a giant banana, It works like a regular banana, but it's massive, and when someone hits it, it spawns 3 more regular sized bananas. It's kind of basic, but when used in the right places, it can be really effective. Similar to that, Bowser and Bowser Jr. have a giant shell. It works exactly like a green shell, but it's enormous, and it's actually really fun and cool to use. Toad and Toadette have a golden mushroom. This is a mushroom, but instead of a certain number of speed boosts, it is on a timer, and you get to use as many boosts before it runs out. In some situations, it is very useful, especially on courses with a lot of off-road, and it of course became a regular item in the games after Double Dash. Same thing with Wario and Waluigi's special item, the Bob-ombs. These work exactly like every other game with them. You can throw them forward or backwards and they blow up on people. Simple but fun. And the last special items are Koopa and Paratroopa, which is hardly even considered a special item because it's just triple green and red shells. In basically every other game, these are basic items, but in Double Dash, these two characters are the only ones who get to use them, which feels weird. And they're still good items, but they don't spin around you and protect you like in other games, so it's not quite as good, and just overall underwhelming as a special item, when most of the other ones are new and cooler. But overall, the special items are a fantastic addition, and a big reason why I love Double Dash so much. This, along with the obvious two-person mechanic, gives the game so much character. So the items in this game are wacky and fun, but what about the driving itself? It's an extremely important part of a Mario Kart game. And to be honest, the driving is fine, but not my favorite. It certainly was the best at its time of its release, but beating out Super Mario Kart, Mario Kart 64, and Super Circuit is not that hard. The drifting feels pretty good, but controlling the kart itself is too slippery for my liking. There have been so many times I've missed an item box, or run into a banana or something because I didn't have total control of the vehicle. Basically every game after this, there is a certain tightness and feeling of control you have with your kart, but it's just not quite there in Double Dash. This was also the first game in the series to introduce different kart options. This of course is standard for the series these days, but up until Double Dash you only had one kart to choose from. But in this game there are tons of karts, all with different stats and strengths and weaknesses. Also different character weight classes have different karts to choose from, but if you choose 2 characters in different weight classes, you can only use karts from the heaviest character selection. So not only do the karts in Double Dash vary in how they play and control, but they also look cool, add some much needed variety, and are just another reason this game was so unique at the time. So yeah, the karts don't handle exactly like I would want them to, but the gameplay is still great overall. The karts are really cool, the drifting is good, the items are insanely fun, and the tracks are solid. And speaking of the tracks, let's talk about those. There are a lot of Mario Kart games now, and more often than not, they have a great track selection in my opinion. And while Double Dash isn't the best, it's arguably the most well-rounded track selection out of any game. And that starts with Luigi Circuit, which is widely considered to be one of the best starter tracks in the series, and for good reason. This track is pretty basic, except for the fact that you can drive in the opposite direction of the other racers, which is pretty cool. And it doesn't take much to be an impressive starter course. Peach Beach is a fairly basic beach track. There's a tide that will rise and lower on the beach throughout the race, Cataquacks from Super Mario Sunshine that will throw you in the air, and also a pipe detour that gives you a double item box, which is not worth it by the way, it loses a lot of time. Baby Park. Where do I even begin? This is possibly the most polarizing track of all time. You either absolutely love it or despise it. It's an oval, which may beg the question, why would anyone love it? That's because those special items we just talked about make this simple track an absolutely chaotic mess of a race. Especially those giant Bowser shells, but there's also the fireballs, giant bananas, and chain chomps going around the track, and it's just a fun time. Of course, some people say this course is terrible, and it's the worst one in the game because it's just an oval, but no matter what shape it is or how short it is, it's still fun. Now it's only fun because of the items, but I enjoy playing it, and that's what matters. And the Mushroom Cup is rounded out with Dry Desert. Even though it's a desert track, so it's automatically not as appealing, it's still a decent time, particularly because of the twisters and the sand pit, which will literally eat you if you get sucked in. Other than that, it's a basic desert course, and because of that, it's arguably the worst course in the game, which proves how solid this game's tracks are, because Dry Desert is pretty decent. On to the Flower Cup, which begins with one of my favorites in Mushroom Bridge. This is a traffic track that also has a bridge at the end, and you can even drive up on the railing if you want. It's not faster, but it's a lot of fun. There's also another pipe detour that gives you a double item box. Once again, not faster, but it's fun to do. All this combined with what is probably the best song in the game makes for a great course in my opinion. Double Dash's version of Mario Circuit isn't anything groundbreaking, but I think it's one of the better ones. There's a chain chomp to avoid, and the ending has some bumps and stuff. It doesn't sound as good when I'm describing it, but trust me, it's solid. For a Mario Circuit at least. But when you compare it to the other tracks in this game, however, it's gonna be at the bottom. But next up is actually my favorite course in the game, Daisy Cruiser. One reason is that I love beach/vacation themed tracks, but this one takes it to the max. There's a pool to avoid, moving tables, a detour through the engine room, great relaxing music, a very good layout, but above all else, just the fact that you are racing on a cruise ship is a genius idea. I love these kinds of tracks where you're driving through real life places like a mall or an airport, and this one is arguably the best. Last but certainly not least is Waluigi Stadium. Stadium tracks are usually a good time in Mario Kart, and Waluigi's version is no exception. There's all kinds of jumps, fire bars, difficult turns, and a section with moving mechanical piranha plants. Even though the remakes are better since you can do tricks in those, which just feels more natural on this course, this version is still a ton of fun, and it's one of the best tracks in the game. The Star Cup starts with one that is fairly controversial in Sherbet Land. Sherbet Land has a lot of pros, the track looks really good, there's varied sections to keep things interesting, and as always the music is top notch. But there is one big con, and that is the ice. This game is already infamous for having loose or slippery controls if you will, and combining that with an ice track makes for a frustrating race. To be honest though, the more I've played Double Dash, the more I can tolerate it and its physics, but it's still one of the worst tracks in the game, especially because of those stupid freezies at the end. Mushroom City is the cooler version of Mushroom Bridge from the Flower Cup. It's nighttime in the big city and there's tons of different paths to take to get to the finish line. And of course lots of traffic to watch out for. If I had to choose one, I would probably go with Mushroom Bridge, but Mushroom City is a very good course as well. Next is Yoshi Circuit, and this is perhaps the most underrated track in this game. Not only is the track itself an outline of Yoshi, but it's just super fun to race on. The flow feels fantastic and there are several cool and even useful shortcuts. The best being the waterfall cut in the beginning, which is easy and saves a lot of time. This course doesn't do anything super flashy as it is a circuit course, but what it's going for, it does extremely well, and that's why it's one of my favorites in the game. Rounding out the Star Cup is DK Mountain. This is a lot of people's top choice in Double Dash, and I can't say I blame them. Getting shot out of a cannon is always a good time, and then racing down the bumpy mountain while avoiding boulders and even a giant chasm makes this one an instant classic. They've remade this one a few times now, and I still think the original is the best. It just feels the most natural. And of course the last cup in the game is the Special Cup. This one starts with Wario Coliseum, and speaking of being remade, where is this one? This is a massive metal cage that has so many twists, turns, boosts, and jumps, it's just non-stop fun. It's so long that it's only 2 laps because it being 3 would make it like a 5+ minute race. This is an awesome track and I'm really hoping it will be in Mario Kart World at some point, because as of this recording it has not been remade in any capacity, which is terrible. Moving on to Dino Dino Jungle, big surprise, this one features dinosaurs. Not a ton of them, but enough to get the job done. The layout here isn't anything crazy, and to be honest, even with the dinosaurs, I still wouldn't put this track that high, but I still like it, and it's a solid one no doubt, but not in the upper tier of this game's tracks. Now it's time to talk about this game's Bowser's Castle, and this one is really great. The vibes are perfect with the creepy music, there's a good amount of hazards like thwomps and fire, and this game was the first of many to have a giant mechanical Bowser. And this one of course spits giant fireballs. Now these are pretty easy to avoid, but it's still a nice touch. I definitely wouldn't say this is the best Bowser's Castle or anything, but I can confidently say it's a really good one. And finally, Rainbow Road. A good Rainbow Road should challenge you, but also make you feel like you've been rewarded with one final magical race where everything is at stake. And this one does exactly that. This is not objectively the best one, but it's easily one of my favorites. The layout is of course difficult, but not impossible. There's a giant cannon / elevator thing to ride in, an absurd amount of boost pads, stars that fall from the sky onto the track that you can pick up and use, and you can even see Mushroom City right below you. All of this combined with the insanely good music makes me feel special every single time I play this course. It's exactly what a Rainbow Road should be, and it's the perfect way to end this game's track selection. So after you play all the Nitro Cups, what else is there to do in this game? Well, there's of course stuff to unlock like carts, characters, mirror mode, and even a unique mode, All Cup World Tour. This is just playing all 16 tracks in the game at one time. Interestingly, you cannot pick what order you play them in, it's completely random every time, but you do always begin with Luigi Circuit and end with Rainbow Road. It's definitely a test of endurance, but it's fun to do if you have enough time on your hands, and it's just nice to have in the game. Sadly though, Double Dash does not have a single player versus mode, so if you are playing by yourself, you can only play Grand Prix, Time Trials, and the All Cup Tour. Of course, this game does have a battle mode, and a pretty solid one. There are 6 battle tracks, and all of them are original. Cookie Land, Block City, GameCube, Pipe Plaza, Luigi's Mansion, and Tilt-A-Kart are all pretty good. Pipe Plaza being a lot of people's favorites, and I'd probably say the same, can make for a really fun battle session. There are 3 battle modes, Shine Thief, Bob-omb Blast, and of course Balloon Battle. Everyone should know what Balloon Battle is, but both Shine Thief and Bob-omb Blast are brand new modes. The former is basically you just grab the shine and try to hold it the longest amount of time and you win, and the latter is exactly what the name suggests. The only items you can get are Bob-ombs, and you just try to survive, and this is definitely my favorite battle mode in the game. So the battle mode has plenty of solid maps and modes, but the only problem I have with it is the fact that, like the versus mode, you cannot play it single player. Like, how hard would it have been to add a CPU option for battle mode? And this will segue into my gripes with Double Dash, of which there are minimal, but these are what holds it back from being possibly the greatest Mario Kart. Number 1 is the physics and controls. The game is not as tight feeling as the Mario Karts that have come after it, and that's what makes it kind of hard to come back to. When I play this game on a regular basis, then I can really get the hang of it, and I don't mind it nearly as much, but this game is pretty old and I don't play it that often, so I'd rather the physics be a little more like the modern entries. Other than that, by far the biggest problem with this game that you probably have noticed by now, and that is the lack of content, especially single player. For starters, there are no retro tracks, which is pretty lame considering Super Circuit had all 20 Super Mario Kart tracks, but this newer console Mario Kart didn't have a single one. So that means there are only 16 tracks total, which every game after it has had a minimum of 32. So once again, coming back to this title after playing newer ones is underwhelming in that aspect. So the only things to do in single player are Grand Prix, Time Trials, and the All Cup World Tour with a measly 16 tracks. So not much at all to keep you entertained, especially after you unlock the carts and characters. But despite its shortcomings, Mario Kart Double Dash is still a really great Mario Kart title. The tracks, character roster, special items, music, and of course double character mechanic makes this possibly the most unique Mario Kart we have seen. It goes out of its way to be different from previous games, and it still has not been replicated at all in the entries following it. I loved playing Mario Kart growing up, but I never got to play this one until I was an adult. And even without nostalgia, I would say this as a good case to be the best Mario Kart. It may not have a ton of content or the best graphics, but it's just pure fun. Every time I boot this up, I get excited because I know I'm about to have a blast. And that's what really matters when playing Mario Kart or just video games in general. This game is an all-time classic, one that will never not be fun, and is certainly a masterpiece. Thanks for watching this retrospective, and thanks for staying till the end. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you have any suggestions for any games you would like to see a video on, then please leave it down below. Make sure to subscribe if you like retrospective content like this, and have a great day.